Hey, what's up? This is Armoredcore here. What is it about traumatic, negative memories that stick in your mind? Why can we never remember the cool thing that happened last week, but then when you're trying to go to sleep, you remember 1:45 PM on May 24th when you were 7 years old and your trunks fell off in swimming class and everyone laughed at you?
Emotional, damn it!
Similarly with clothing, it's the worst, the stupidest purchases that stick with us for life. Those things that were either way too expensive, looked terrible, or we just never really found an opportunity to wear. You're probably already thinking of your own. Please do share your worst fashion buys in the comments. Definitely looking forward to hearing them. Today I want to take you through some of mine. Over the years there have been loads of things that I've loved, but some, of course, that in retrospect have been complete wastes of money. By analysing what those mistakes were, I want to help you avoid doing the same thing and buy better clothing. And if you're new here, that's exactly the kind of thing that we like to do, so hey, why not consider subscribing and turn yourself into a galactic brain fashion enjoyer. Now, from sneakers to jackets to accessories, it's time to go through my most regretted purchases. Although as a teenager I definitely bought some dodgy stuff and things which don't look that great by 2023 standards, I want to focus on more recent purchases, kind of since I've been properly interested in fashion. Even since having a fairly consistent style and a decent amount of confidence in the clothing that I like, I do still end up buying things that I regret. And the first is something that I bought last year, this Veilance Nemesis bomber jacket in a colour they call Siltstone. I like Veilance, they have a lot of consistent performance clothing with a more mature look than your typical techwear stuff, and more urban specific style than mainline Arc'teryx. I also think the colour is really nice. Unfortunately, the colour is also the problem because I find this completely unwearable. To me, it doesn't look quite right with either white or black. It's a little bit too contrasty, I feel, with either, but this tone is so unusual, the level of saturation, the colour, that I just never really found anything complementary to wear with it either. I was smart enough to know that, but my solution wasn't to not buy it. Instead, it was to buy the matching Convex LT pants. I thought buying two things in the same colour would completely solve the problem. It did not. If anything, it just made it worse because it highlighted the lack of cohesion in the remaining things that I was wearing. As a result, I've basically never worn either. These were actually sale pickups. I think they're about 50% off each, which sounds good, but actually that was exactly what baited me into this trap. At full price, I probably wouldn't have bought either of these items because a bit of an unusual colour, maybe a little bit of a risk, but when they were that much cheaper, it made me think, well, I can just buy two for the same price as one. I almost felt like I could brute force my way into wearing this colour by picking up multiple pieces because they were cheap. So literally twice as stupid as buying something in a sale and never wearing it. I think I just liked the idea of technical clothes in an unusual colour so much that I forgot I probably didn't have the means to effectively wear it myself. It's a good reminder that really liking something or appreciating something doesn't mean that you have to consume it. You can just enjoy the existence of this thing, or looking at the cool product pictures or lookbook photos, or even other people wearing it who have a style that would work better with something like this. And with the Nemesis specifically, I find that the sleeves are a little bit long. I bought this in a size large because I tried a medium on once and the chest was a little bit too tight, so maybe as well this was just not really the right piece for me at all. Accessories and cool details are a great way of taking a fit to another level. I had to learn the hard way that some accessories are better than others. These Y-3 socks look really cool, or at least they did when I bought them. Now the print on the back is kind of peeling, it doesn't really look very good, so the intention was to have a cool premium designer product, but actually wearing these now, it's basically the opposite scenario where they look a bit kind of tacky and scruffy and just not very nice. These were more expensive than regular socks with a dramatically lower life because now I would rather wear a plain pair of socks than these ones. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is that I intentionally avoided wearing these too much because I knew that washing them would start to immediately damage the print. So I spent more money for something that I didn't want to wear and then didn't end up looking that good after I did wear it a few times. Although I do have one or two other pairs of branded socks which I think have been okay, I quite like wearing these Maharishi ones for example, I would be super wary of fashion brand underwear. It gets washed more, it doesn't get seen as much, and it often isn't representative of the rest of a brand's output. It's the kind of thing that falls into that premium mediocre category that we talked about a few months ago. It's got the Y-3 logo and the branding on it makes you feel like you've got a piece of the brand and you can own it for less money than most of their other output, but is this really giving you the Y-3 experience? Not really. If you want premium underwear, more dedicated brands will definitely give you a better experience. I've had some nice things from CDLP and Organic Basics recently, but even the more standard things like Calvin Klein boxers and Nike socks are often available on sale. You can get them in big multi-packs, and for the most part, I think they do a perfectly fine job. I've got some great Arc'teryx boxers as well. If you ever see those on sale, I'd highly recommend them. Have you ever seen me wear a bright orange long sleeve t-shirt? No? Then why on earth did I buy this? This was from Maharishi. I bought it a few years ago. I think I had this idea in my head that an all-black outfit with a pop of really vibrant color would look really cool, but it just didn't really. This does not suit me. I don't think the color kind of works on me that well, and the sizing I didn't think was that great either, so it just doesn't quite fit right. The only interesting thing about it is this pocket detail here, which is sort of okay, I guess, but a little bit tacky at the same time. Weird, because at the same time I bought another Maharishi t-shirt, which I think fits much better, has a great graphic on the front, really like it, worn it loads, big W. I just don't know what I was thinking with this one. At least being a streetwear branded t-shirt, it wasn't the most expensive mistake in the world. If you're a long-time viewer, you might remember that I did a video about my worst sneaker purchases, and all of those things are definitely still true. I've still never worn those Nike IDs, and the Y-3 Casa ended up going to a better home. And I'd like to bring something else to the table, the Puma Thunder Spectra. You're probably looking at these, and looking at the kind of thing that I normally like to wear, and wondering exactly why I bought them, or how I ended up with them, and I don't really know. These were around the release of the Yeezy Boost 700, which had a few elements that I liked, namely the chunky shape, the fluid-looking midsole, the splashes of contrasting color, and I also liked the idea of a less hyped alternative than those, and something that felt a little bit more futuristic, and that led me to these. They just don't really suit my other clothing that well, and although I have worn them a few times, I never really felt cool enough in them to want to document that. They also just don't look or feel super nice to me. They're not bad by any means, but they have a little bit of that mid-range shoe kind of feel about them, and that's not necessarily a bad thing at all, but let's face it, I've got quite a few pairs of shoes by this point, so why would I pick these when I've got other sort of cooler or more interesting options? The answer is I don't. That said, I still kind of like the midsole shape. I like the use of very contrasty, unusual colors. They're definitely not the worst shoe by any means, and I've probably got worse shoes, come to think of it, but just this one was a pretty bad purchase for me. If I liked the 700s, I should have either just bought those or made the decision that I don't want to spend the money on them, rather than trying to hunt for the sort of affordable alternative. It just never really plays out that well when you try and do that, I find. Let me show you one of the coolest pairs of sunglasses that I own. They're in here, this pair of Rigards and the Viridian clip-ons. These have a real artisanal look about them and a really solid construction, which makes them genuinely feel like a premium product, especially with this very cool magnetic clip-on system and the very nice protective case. Nice. They were also a sale purchase, so while they weren't cheap by any means, they were about the cheapest I've ever seen a pair of Rigards sunglasses sell for, and they were the exact model that I wanted. I've worn them in a bunch of fit pics, certainly taken them out a lot more than some of my other pairs of sunglasses. How could these possibly be a regretful purchase? Well, it's simply because they are not actually that comfortable to wear. The arms are a little bit short for me, and the bridge shape means that they sit kind of far forward on my face. That combined with the sunglasses part actually being relatively small, it kind of feels like I'm looking through these teeny tiny windows, and if you do that for a long period of time, not only does it completely wreck your peripheral vision, it also gives you this slightly weird, almost disorientating, nauseating kind of feeling, which is not really that great for a pair of sunglasses. I really do suffer having such a giant head. Admittedly, now I do actually need glasses. I could make better use of these because I could fit this part with a prescription lens and probably get a lot more use out of them, because I think without the sunglasses attachment, they feel a lot more comfortable to wear and there's just a little bit more vision going on, and then these are more a kind of emergency use type scenario. But I don't know, I feel like I would rather just have a pair that I find more comfortable in general so I can just kind of forget about them being on my face. I ended up with these partly because I saw other people wearing similar glasses and glasses by Rigards and thinking, wow, this is such a cool brand, I really want a pair for myself, I bet they're going to look great with my style. And yeah, all of those things are true, but I think that made me for a little while kind of overlook the fact that they weren't mega comfortable on me. I just sort of tried to deal with it for a while and tried to gaslight myself that they were perfect. I ordered them online as well. I think glasses are one of those things where it's really really valuable to try them on in person. You get an immediate sense of whether they're going to work for you. You know, it's a very personal thing. Different kinds of glasses are just going to look better on different people, and they're going to fit different faces, feel more comfortable, all that sort of thing. I still really like these. I would recommend Rigards as a brand. I just wish that they were better for me, and I probably should have gone for something else. Some of these pickups have been relatively recent mistakes, you know, in the last year or two. This thing has been sitting in my closet for over half a decade, and let me tell you, the cost per wear on this thing is not good. It is a Stone Island Ghost Piece crew neck. Another item which in a vacuum looks really cool, I think. The colour is really great and interesting. It has this really delicate look about it, but it's still substantially made, so it doesn't feel like it's going to fall apart. Being Ghost Piece, it has this tonal badge as well, which is pretty unique for Stone Island. And there are plenty of nice subtle details which make this feel premium and give it a slightly different look to your standard Stone Island jumper. You've got this tonal zip pull here, you've got this really small neckline, you've got the kind of minimized hem down here as well. It's just a little bit different to your average jumper. It has some personality to it, and I think it just looks really cool. I think I like it just as much now as when I bought it. You can tell I'm talking about this thing quite positively, and yet I have barely ever worn this thing. When I initially bought it, I was fairly early in my fashion journey, I suppose. I had it in my head that, oh, I really need to buy a sort of premium item, something that is a little bit luxury. You know, most of my clothes at that point were not really anything too special. So I had it in my head that I needed something a bit different, and I came across this thing. I thought, wow, like this looks so amazing. It's so different to the other things that I wear, but because it is very minimal, it doesn't have much branding, doesn't have loads of different colors, it will also be really easy to wear, and I can wear it all the time. If it was black, sure, but this color is just surprisingly strange. It's just a little bit too saturated than you would expect. It's a slightly banana-y yellow sort of color, and while that is really nice, it just means that it doesn't quite integrate or sit that well with a lot of other colors. If I wanted a light colour, it's 1,000 times easier to just wear white, and indeed there was a Cavemmed jumper that I bought a couple of years after this, which I have worn a million times since then, and I'd probably opt for that almost every time instead of this. I should definitely get this out more. Now I've got a bigger wardrobe, maybe I could find something that works with this a little bit better and actually get some wear out of it. But I was definitely blinded by the idea of having a sort of expensive premium jumper. Once I'd committed to the idea of spending that sort of money, I didn't really think about how much I would actually wear it. Weirdly, had I just bought a normal item, I don't think I would have felt that pressure at the time to make it special and feel like I had to buy something that was a little bit different, and thus would have worn something way more. Expensive clothing definitely does not have to be strange or different to your normal stuff, and in fact, intentionally trying to buy something different can end up with something like this, that you love the look of, but you just don't find yourself wearing. Here's another early fashion mistake, which you almost definitely would not have seen, and you're going to be scratching your head as to why I own this. It is a Kenzo, but not just Kenzo, it is a Kenzo and H&M collaborative t-shirt. I'm ashamed to admit that I had just joined some Facebook fashion groups, I think, and this was at the time being hyped up as a sort of new drop that would be pretty popular, and I really felt at the time, again, pretty new into the whole fashion thing, that I really needed to buy some popular clothing in order to sort of help assimilate myself into the world of fashion, and I needed to make my wardrobe a little bit cooler by buying some branded things. And this being an H&M collaboration, well, it's all affordable stuff, so it's really easy to do that. I barely even knew anything about Kenzo. I've never really liked heavily branded stuff, so I just don't know what possessed me to go for this massive graphic, other than the fact that I felt some kind of pressure to wear some designer clothing in order to be considered more fashionable. The worst part was, at the same time, I actually bought this way more interesting crew neck, and while you are probably also going to hate this thing, I would actually stand by this because at least it's kind of interesting. It's got this multi-zebra sleeve thing going on with these zip details. You can actually zip them off and turn this into a short sleeve crew neck. Don't know why you do that. But yeah, this was actually kind of a cool and interesting purchase, but I just kind of tacked on a t-shirt in the order at the same time. So it was basically a complete waste of 20 quid, especially because the embroidery on this t-shirt, if I get this out again, this is like really, really thick, and you can really feel it through the underside of the t-shirt. So it's actually really uncomfortable to wear as well. How do you get a t-shirt so badly wrong? I don't know. At the end of the day, it's an H&M t-shirt. I certainly could have wasted more money, but yeah, it was just a pretty bad purchase. Question is though, do you think I should be rocking this again? Should I attempt to work this back into my current wardrobe? You decide on that one. Let me hit you with a couple more bonus items. You might even recognize it. It is this CP Company jacket. I really like the color of this thing. I love the technical design. I love the silly goggle hood, which can make you look like a frog when you do it up. Problem is, well, it's just a little bit too big. It was kind of borderline when I bought it. I lost some weight afterwards, and now this is just straight up a size too big for me. But it also doesn't have that much resale value, so I've just never really taken the L and sold it on. I wouldn't say buy things with resale value in mind, but whenever you're paying full retail price for something, which I'm pretty sure I did for this, with some brands in particular, you just have to be aware of the fact that if you do ever want to move it in future, you're not going to get the money back that you paid. It's a really good argument for buying secondhand. In fact, had I picked something like this up secondhand, it would have cost me a lot less money, and I probably could have sold it for a similar price when I decided that it didn't fit me that well. Honestly, retailers put things on sale so frequently from all kinds of brands, even popular ones, and as I say, the secondhand market, there is so much stuff available on there. You have to really, really want something and kind of make sure that it's perfect if you do plan on paying full retail price for something. These Maharishi MA1 custom pants are exactly the same. It's a great piece of clothing, they're really wearable, I would recommend something like this to anyone. These were actually a sale purchase, so I think they were fairly cheap as well, but these ones, well, they're just a little bit too small. And buying these, in fact, was the dumbest mistake you can make. I saw these, I thought, wow, these look amazing, they're going to be really cool. They were a great price as well. I think these might have been 50% off on the official Maharishi website, but they didn't have my size. So I thought, yeah, I'm sure I can squeeze into a size lower, it'll be fine. Well, it's not fine, obviously. They do physically fit, I have worn these quite a few times, but if I go anywhere where I have to sit down for a long period of time, I inevitably get a stomachache because these are just a little bit too tight. As a result, it makes me not want to wear them, despite these having a great material, some nice little details like this ankle pocket down here, and just generally feeling like a very substantial quality piece of clothing. So yeah, definitely learn from my mistake. Do not buy things in the sale that are the wrong size. It's just not going to work. Ultimately, I am fortunate in that I've never gone through a phase of buying loads of stuff with a particular aesthetic or a particular brand and then deciding that I hate it all, or going nuts in some sale and buying loads of clothing that ultimately turns out to be terrible. In general, I'd say I'm more of a considered purchaser. I do have an idea in my head of the kind of clothes I like, the kind of brands I like, and I will then sort of slowly gather those things over time. You can see in a lot of these cases, the items that I regret are still from brands that I like, or it's individual pieces of clothing that I like. It's just I've made some other mistakes somewhere. In fact, in several cases, that's almost the problem. It's clothing that I've seen, I've liked it, I've liked pictures of it on other people, and I've kind of convinced myself that therefore it will also work for me, or that I should have it and I should put it into my wardrobe, regardless of how well it's actually going to integrate or how frequently I genuinely see myself wearing it. And as always, I know I've said this already, but fit is everything. The coolest item of clothing ever made is not going to be good if it doesn't fit you well. You're not going to want to wear it, and it's not going to look good when it's on you. You're just not going to get the most value out of that thing. You definitely have to get used to the idea that there are some items of clothing, even if you love them, they just might not be right for you personally. Coming to that realization really sucks, and I've definitely bought things in that I've been super hyped about, and then I try them on and I just realize that yeah, I'm not the person for this item of clothing. But realizing that and being honest about that is actually a really healthy thing to do. So I know it can be disheartening to go through that process. You will eventually find those things that are perfect and you love, and they look really good on you, and they fit really well in your wardrobe. So that is gonna happen. Have you ever made some absolutely horrendous errors? Or like me, have you bought things that you really like, but then later discover that they weren't quite right after all? Would love to hear your experiences in the comments, partly so I can feel a little bit better about myself about some of these things that I've bought. I've had this topic in mind for a while. I saw Drew actually just did pretty much exactly the same thing, so maybe it'll be interesting to have those two different perspectives from different content creators buying very different clothing at the end of the day. And in general, I quite like the idea of having multiple viewpoints discussing a similar topic. I feel like that's something that doesn't happen too much in this fashion space. Maybe there's a way that I or we can make that happen somehow. Anyway, that's a topic for a different video. That's all from me for this one. So again, if you enjoyed it, please do give it a like. It is super appreciated, and as always, I will catch you very soon in the next one.